Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Julie Ellison-Spate, and I'm the Associate Director for the Center for Middle Eastern Studies at the University of Arizona. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Panel 3, Collaborative Learning Online. So the first paper that will be given today is Engage in Collaboration in Remote Arabic Classes, a task-based approach to teaching vocabulary. The presenters are Professor Ayman Mohamed, who's an assistant professor at Michigan State University. He received his PhD from Michigan State University SLS program with a focus on second language vocabulary acquisition. His research interests include task-based learning, incidental vocabulary acquisition, hybrid and online pedagogy of Arabic, and using eye tracking techniques in second language reading. Dr. Mohammed's co-presenter is Mr. Ayman Mohamed, who is a PhD student in the Second Language Studies program at Michigan State University. He earned his BA in English Language and Literature from Fayoum University in Egypt. He earned his MA in TESOL from Michigan State University. Without further ado, we look forward to hearing the paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Welcome, everyone, to the presentation. Mr. Amr and I will be presenting this talk with you today, and Mr. Amr will get started for us.
All right, so thank you. Our presentation or our study is collaborative vocabulary learning in the Arabic classroom. Mainly, we're revisiting two vocabulary processing frameworks, the involvement load hypothesis and the technique feature analysis. In this presentation, we will have the goal of the study, brief literature review and the research questions, the method, the analysis and results, and then discussion and implications. So the goal of this study was to examine the effect of collaborative vocabulary learning on beginner Arabic learners in university classes, and how this effect is better predicted by the two main vocabulary processing frameworks under study here. The theoretical framework stems from the idea of shallow versus deep processing, which was developed by Craig and Lockhart in 1972, which in a nutshell summarizes that the deep processing of vocabulary, like when you deep process a vocabulary or an item, it moves from the short-term memory to the long-term memory, which means that you're going to learn and memorize this word. From this stem, two frameworks were developed. One was the involvement load hypothesis by Laufer and Holstein in 2001, and the technique feature analysis by Nation and Webb in 2011. The two frameworks, the ILH for short, consists of three main components: need, search, and evaluation. So whether there is a need to learn this word, and this can be, it can be absent, or it can be moderate or strong need. Whether the learner has to search for the word, so it's either absent or present. And also the evaluation of the word, and this can be how can this word be evaluated?
I was advised to call in and.
All right. So the evaluation can be absent or moderate or strong. So out of 5, the ILH can evaluate a task from 0 to 5 or from 1 to 5. The technique feature analysis is kind of an extension of the involvement load hypothesis. After some reviews of the framework, researchers wanted to add the idea of learner engagement with the material and also the idea of motivation. So Nation and Webb developed this framework consisting of 5 main components with subcategories under each one, which are motivation, noticing, retrieval, generation, and retention. And the maximum points a task can take is 18 points. So in the literature, many studies try to use these frameworks and kind of validate them or support their claims. And these studies are kind of listed here. Only a few looked at Arabic for as a language of focus, and less studies studied and supported the technique feature analysis. Well, since it was there for shorter than the ILH, it makes sense. And a couple of studies compared the involvement load and the technique feature analysis, and all of them using different tasks found evidence for the superiority of technique feature analysis in kind of predicting the deep processing of vocabulary learning. So all of these studies looked at tasks in a lab-based or individual setting, where students get the task and do it without any interaction with their peers. But the idea of collaborative tasks has been proved to be very beneficial for the classroom for so many reasons. It helps developing meaning, allowing output, and the output is more precise, and it helps learners internalize and consolidate knowledge, and provides opportunities for negotiation of meaning. And this was proven through many studies in the literature. So there are two gaps in the literature so far. First of all previously mentioned studies were conducted in an individual setting, and also the ILH and TFA frameworks were never addressed in relation to collaborative tasks. It was only individual tasks. So we have two research questions. First, are collaborative tasks more effective than individual tasks in promoting vocabulary learning in the Arabic classroom? And the second research question, to what extent this contribution of tasks, if there is any, is predicted by the ILH versus the TFA? For the method, Dr. Mohamed can take over.
Okay, for the purpose of this study, we had three intact Arabic classes in their second semester. Total of 52 college students learning the Arabic in their second semester, and two of these classes were assigned as the experimental condition, where one section completed the fill in the blank collaboration task, and the other section completed the other version in the form of a multiple choice test. The third class was divided into two groups to act as the control condition. Half of them completed the fill in the blanks task individually, and the other half included the multiple choice individual. I think it's individual task on their own. Okay, so to test their vocabulary knowledge of the target words, we use the vocabulary knowledge scale that ranges from 0 to 60, like that. I don't remember having seen this word before, to a level 6 or score 6, which I can use these word in a sentence and to provide these. And so this test was used to filter out the target words that we intend to use in the experimental task. Okay. Instruments included, or the base of our task included a reading task that was developed to mainly practice and consolidate the past tense, but there were in this text embedded vocabulary that were found to be unknown by all the participants. So these words in bold were chosen to be embedded in the text, and this text was used as the form that we use for our test. So how did this develop? We developed this same text into two different tests. In task 1, we had the text as a fill in the gap activity, where the target words were left the place of the target words were left blank, and students were asked to fill in the gap based on a word bank. And the same task with the other group had to read the text without any gaps and answer comprehension multiple choice questions. This is the sample of the vocabulary that were chosen for the experiment. As you see, they include noun, verbs, and adjectives. They had a variety of parts of speech. Okay. So how did the collaboration task work? To conduct the vocabulary test collaboratively, students were asked to read the text and create visual representation of what they understand out of the text, and take turn retelling the story using their visual representation that they created. And the sketch you see is just a sample of what we imagined the students will be doing. And then they will use this same visual representation to participate in classroom storytelling, retelling the story that they have read. This happened in breakout rooms as groups. They did this in groups. Okay. So how this was conducted, the procedure included, if we look at the collaborative lesson plan, this was done during the 50-minute class session for each group. In the individual group, students were just sent the links to the test to do individually, while the teacher would just there to monitor their completion of the task on their own. On the collaborative condition, students were assigned into breakout rooms and they were given instructions to complete the task as described. And again, they were put into another groups so they can retell the stories together. All of this, the teacher was visiting the breakout rooms for any questions or clarification. The focus of the students was on meaning, so that they want to retell the story. The focus was not on teaching the vocabulary explicitly. So all of this, all the pre-test and the post-test were done through Qualtrics online. In the immediate post-test was done on immediately, and then a week later was the delayed. Okay.
All right, so for the results, research question number 1, are collaborative tasks more effective than individual tasks in vocabulary learning in the Arabic classroom? Looking at the descriptive statistics at this box plot, we can see the gain scores of the learners, and we can see in the post-test, it looks like everybody gained something in the collaborative groups and in the individual groups as well. And the same thing in the late post-test, they also retained these gains. Looking at the numbers in this table, we can see that specifically the 2 collaborative groups made more gains than the individual groups. But again, it looks like everybody gained something, but the collaborative groups gained more. So to see whether there is significance between the two, between any of the groups and the tasks, we conducted a mixed design ANOVA, and the results showed a significant main effect for time, but non-significant interaction effect between groups and the time. So this means that, as predicted by the descriptive statistics, everybody gained despite of the task, or regardless of the task or the condition. There is no significant effect based on the task itself. So we grouped the participants by condition, not by task and condition, and the gain scores looked more distinct here. So looking at the numbers, again, the descriptive, the mean scores, the 95% confidence intervals and the standard deviation, we can see that the gains made in the collaboration groups are almost double the gains made in the individual groups. To see whether this has reached a significant level, we conducted post-hoc pairwise t-tests, and we can see that in the condition in the post-test and the delayed post-test, there are significant differences between the gains made in the individual condition and the collaborative condition, with medium effect size in the delayed post-test and kind of high effect size for the in the post-test, the immediate post-test. So this answers the first research question, that it looks like collaborative condition is more, learning vocabulary collaboratively is more effective than individually. For the second research question, to what extent the task contribution, if any, is predicted by the ILH versus TFA? To answer this question, we kind of compared the task evaluation of the ILH and TFA with the gain scores of the learners to see which framework kind of predicted the gains that the students made. Looking at this correlation matrix, we can see that the gains, the evaluation was made by TFA in relation to the gains they made in the post-test. It's got the connection or the relationship is higher, like there is a positive correlation here, 79%, and also with the ILH and the gains, it's 55%. So to see which one of them was more predictive than the other, it looks from the correlation matrix that the TFA will be more effective, but we had to make sure, right? So we conducted the regression, hierarchical regression analysis, 2 models. First one, we entered the ILH as a variant first, and then the TFA, and the second one, we entered the TFA first and the ILH second. So in the first model, both the frameworks account for almost 65% or like 64% of the overall variance in the gains that the students made. But the TFA is the significant predictor here, and alone it accounts for almost 34% of the overall variance. In the second model, where the TFA is entered first, and the ILH second, the ILH alone only accounts for like 1% of the overall variance. So it looks like the TFA is a better predictor of the gains. So the results indicate that the TFA is a better predictor of the gains than the ILH. So to sum up what I just said, results indicate that collaborative vocabulary learning is more effective than individual, which is kind of in line with previous research. But in this study, we added the element of collaboration to the equation. And also results indicate that the TFA has more predictive power than ILH in both the individual and the collaborative condition. Dr. Mohamed.
Okay, so just briefly, we're going to touch on some implications that, of these results. That there were some pedagogical implications regarding collaborative reinforcement of vocabulary learning, or even consolidating already partially known words. The focus here was on standard Arabic, but this could also apply on the dialect. But for this particular lesson, we were targeting reinforcing the use or output of standard Arabic in class, as some would argue that we don't usually push students to speak standard Arabic, but here the focus was to push or reinforce the use of vocabulary, the knowledge of vocabulary. And output was found to be key. It's not only about written homework, it's the feedback and repair that happens through retelling. In this conversation with students, retelling the stories was more effective. Also, the effect on something that we did not touch upon in this study is language-related episodes. And this was not analyzed yet, but we were faced with, that we all had this reality of remote teaching. And in a post hoc interview with some of the students, they indicated that interaction between students, like student-student interaction, was not, in their perspective, was not a good one, or was not effective, was not as engaging as the teacher would expect. There were more, they said that there was more room for student-teacher interaction, but in the breakout rooms, students usually wait for initiatives from the other student. Okay, who will take this? Who will do this? And I will continue. So there was that was normal, that was expected. Also, the consumption of time in the breakout rooms and shifting the breakout rooms again. The lack of control from the teacher when not being able to watch everything that's happening at the moment. Not even able to record as the host. The teacher would be asking, should ask the students to record on their end, and this is of course some of the shortcoming of this kind of interaction. So we're providing applications regarding remote teaching of vocabulary. We were planning to do like collaborative learning. This was initially planned as an in-person, but at the time of implementation, the remote teaching transition happened as we were preparing everything. So things were different, but the implications are still giving us the same directions, that engagement and collaboration in vocabulary learning is a key component in learning and reinforcing vocabulary. And with this, we can take questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that engaging presentation. We're going to hold questions actually till the end of the panel. And our next presenter is Miss Lena Kraus. She's doing online learning Moroccan Arabic's Big Break. And I have to commend her. The amount of dedication she had to making it to this event is amazing. She definitely had some technical challenges, and she definitely has a fan club here today. But she's part of the Arabic and French faculty at Beacon Academy, teaching a joint Darija and Fusha curriculum. She's working on developing Darija material that aligns with actual standards, and we're really interested to hear about this. And thank you, and we look forward to hearing your presentation.
Well, and thank you on your end, Julie, for all your help coordinating, and thanks to everyone at the Center for Middle Eastern Studies and University of Arizona for having me. So, oops, just need to find how to share my screen. So hello, everyone. And yes, the title of my talk today is Online Learning Moroccan Arabic's Big Break. I thought I would start out lighthearted with a meme and address sort of maybe an elephant in the room. That pun literally came to me right now, which is that Moroccan Darija has sometimes been considered sort of a black sheep of the Arabic dialects, given all of the different linguistic influences on it. However, Morocco plays a large role in the MENA. So I'm going to jump in with a few statistics here from Open Doors. which is an organization that collects statistics on study abroad around the world. And all I pulled here was the number of US college students studying abroad for credit in the MENA, starting in 1999 through 2018, 2019. And I basically just included any country that had over 100 Americans studying in it at least once. And I'll put the asterisk that they might not all have been studying Arabic while they were abroad. However, these statistics would encompass all of the students who were studying Arabic while in the MENA. So given my audience, I probably don't need to go into too much detail about some of the unfortunate political shifts that caused these transitions over the last decade plus, but Egypt was the leader for a very long time, housing a lot of Arabic programs. Jordan, as many shifts happened in the region, started to welcome more and more students, and programs shifted there. But since about 2011, 2012, Morocco has been the leader, housing or welcoming almost 2,000 American students studying each year. So that's sort of the problématique, I guess I can say, because given despite this reality, there is still a little bit of a dearth of Darija programming in the United States. So tonight I will argue that, first of all, if we want students who travel abroad in the MENA to be able to engage with culture, there is a demand for more Darija inclusive curricula, we can say. I will also argue that this is possible. I'm working on it right now, and even a curriculum that is Fusha focused or includes a lot of Fusha, I argue that Darija can be integrated as well as Shami, Masri, Khaliji, or any other dialect. And my main argument is leading up to the fact that online learning, which we may have been dragged into kicking and screaming, has actually created opportunities for the learning of Darija. And by the way, it's not just about Darija. I would argue that this is for any of the lesser taught dialects. I'm not arguing that Darija should overshadow Shami, Masri, etc., just be included among them. So to start with the first point, that Darija can be included with a curriculum that includes Fusha, before I even touch online learning, I just want to start here. And a little bit of the theory that I've come across in reading and a lot of conversations with colleagues over the past few years is that regardless of what dialect is taught, Amiya is what's appropriate in the beginning levels. Your Arabic 1 student doesn't need to know about the United Nations as much as they need to know how to go to the soup, you know? So in that sense, any dialect is better than no dialect, because an awareness of dialects will prepare a student. I mean, if they're my student and they're learning Maghrebi today and travel to Jordan later, it is still better than not having any exposure to dialect. And on the same token, the teacher should and really can only speak the dialect in which they're comfortable. For me, I mean, I'm a case study. I traveled to Morocco on a Fulbright and ولفت الدرجة المغربية. You know, it would be totally false for me to pretend to be able to speak Shami or any other dialect. So, and the opposite is true too. If you're Egyptian, you should only speak your native dialect. So that's what I'm doing right now at Beacon, which is the school I teach. In the first few years, in Arabic 1 and 2 primarily, I speak what I like to think of as educated Darija, and I'll return to that in just a few minutes. And then if a student, based on students' goals, which for some of mine is to take Arabic at the IB level, which is a Fusha-focused curriculum, there's really a natural shift as you move into levels 3 and 4, as you address more technical subjects, more high-level concepts, and I'll return to that too. So that's the theory. What does that look like in practice? I'm a linguistic geek and I've gathered lots of examples, but as much as possible, I try to expose my students to similarities rather than differences between dialects. part of this involves being like selective with the words that I use. For example, as far as I know, and native speakers in the audience, let me know if I'm wrong, if there's an Arabic country that doesn't use shuf. Similarly, the word shnu can be very understood throughout the region from what I understand. Anyway, I try to focus on as many similarities as possible between dialects in the vocabulary that I choose to use in class. Similarly, I think developing students like meta awareness of the language is almost equally valuable to the dialect itself. So even if I'm adding a kaf to the beginning of my verbs, kanakul, kanashrab, I explain to them that in other countries there's a ba, which serves the same exact function. So they study with me for 3 years, then they go to a program in Masr, they understand where that's coming from and what its purpose is. And finally, highlighting the fact that a lot of dialects, including Darija, are rooted in Fusha. So if Egyptians are using Aiz, which comes from Azza, Moroccans are using Bari, which comes from Bara, and both are equally close to Fusha. By the way, please correct me if I get any of this wrong, because I'm learning more every day. So a brief interactive thing, in fact, in terms of this educated spoken Darija, which I argue can be really an effective bridge in moving from Amiya toward Fusha, this is what I strive to model in my classes. I have watched hours and hours and hours of Moroccan YouTube channels and listened to Moroccan radio every morning. And I've sort of honed in on what this can sound like. So if you want to use the chat, you're welcome to. If you're a native Arabic speaker or any Arabic speaker, just give general thumbs up, thumbs down if you can understand these 2 clips. The first is a YouTuber named Ihsan Benalouche, and she has thousands of followers all over the region. So her Darija is a little bit fasiha. So let's listen to this for a moment and tell me what you think.
أهلا شباب، إن شاء الله تكونوا بألف خير وإن شاء الله تكونوا كدوزوا نهار مزيان. مرحبا بكم في قناة إحسان بن علوش، ومرحبا بكم في سلسلة جديدة، سلسلة شباب ملهم. في كل حلقة من هذه السلسلة غيكون عندنا سؤال رئيسي اللي غنحاولوا نجاوبوا عليه في طول الفيديو. فغادي تسولوني شنو ممكن يكون السؤال ديال حلقة اليوم. يمكن غادي تكونوا عارفينه انطلاقا من العنوان.
Okay, so that's my first sample of how Moroccan YouTubers are working to make themselves understood throughout the region. And then this ties back to my point about moving toward a general transition toward Fusha and upper levels. As subjects become more technical, like this clip about Morocco's solar power plant, you're going to hear a lot more of Fusha terminology, and it becomes a non-issue almost.
هذا الموقع وهذا لا سنترال كتنتج حاليا اللي هي نور واحد في التشغيل الان ما يعادل 160 ميجاوات. شنو كتعني هاد 160 ميجاوات؟ كتعني الاستهلاك اليومي لقرابه 600 ألف نسمه من ساكنه المغرب.
I'll stop there. 2 examples of how Darija can be on the spectrum of totally Amiya to Fusha.
أهلا شباب.
Did I miss a slide? No. So moving on to the main point, which is that online learning is creating opportunities for more Darija learning prior to study abroad, with the goal that our students are going to be able to engage with the culture. I argue that it almost doesn't matter what dialect the teacher speaks anymore. If Darija is the one that I'm comfortable with and a colleague is Masri, it doesn't matter because students basically have access to the whole internet, which includes native speakers. And even though borders right now are a total mess, borders don't exist online. So if Morocco continues to be a really likely destination for a lot of study abroad students, there are no more barriers to them being exposed to Darija before they depart. In practice, one of the examples that I wanted to draw on is, and this is a free plug for University of New Mexico, but there's an online textbook that is free and open source And the most important thing for me here, because I've started to use this with my students, is that the goal is never just to expose them to one dialect, but to expose them to a range of dialects. In the same way that a native speaker might understand Egyptian films, but never be expected to produce Masri, the same is true in my class. My students hear me speak Darija, but I'm showing them videos in Shami, I'm showing them ads in Khaliji. And that would replicate sort of the experience of native speakers. In addition to the textbooks, I mean, I'm not really sure how many textbooks there are that have this sort of perspective. But there is certainly a growing repertoire of online AMIA resources. For example, a lot of people I know throughout their Arabic career have stumbled upon playaling.com, which is a really simple concept. It's just subtitled Arabic videos. And you can get really far just on this website and sort of being an autodidact or self-teaching. I've acquired a lot of Masri and other dialects through it. And the reason that I bring this up is that I think as teachers in general in this new online landscape, but maybe specifically in terms of Arabic, can really start to think of ourselves almost as facilitators, given how much we have to work with, and just being selective. So a project that I'm really excited to share goes beyond just us facilitating our students' learning through resources that are available, but also sort of exploring what hybrid learning can mean. And I feel very lucky. Like I said, I teach at a hippie Montessori school and have a lot of freedom to play, which is a huge privilege. But I'm fortunate to have the chance to be teaching the last 8 weeks of the year from Morocco. So the impetus of this was students can't travel, which is nothing can replace linguistic immersion in terms of skyrocketing your language skills. However, what if a teacher could be a mediator? What if I can be here, I know my students and I know this culture, and I can sort of craft a virtual experience for them that is as authentic as possible. I hate that word, but it's okay. So a couple of examples of that. One, we just are wrapping up this weekend, and it was just a really simple introductions project. The idea was, if they were here with me, I would be taking them to the souk, I would be taking them to my hanout, I would be introducing them to my neighbors, and the goal would just be teaching the cultural competence that you would hope a student is developing as a respectful visitor to another country. And this is where I really leaned into sort of the actful philosophy of assignments being task-based and can-do based. So the can-do statement for this project was just, I can meet my neighbors and introduce myself. And I went around, and as many people who were willing to talk to me as possible. This is Ahmed, who I met in the market and bought a lot of food that is bad for you from. And he recorded this video for me. So I hope it loads. By the way, I asked everybody's consent to participate in our presentation tonight.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. أنا سميتي أحمد من مواليد مدينة طنجة المغرب. المهنة ديالي كنعدل حلوى عربية.
شنو هذا؟
هذا المقرط.
وهذا
الكويلات.
I will have to say that this man is a gem because no Moroccans speak this slowly and clearly. I was like, Ahmed, I need to pay you for this video. It's amazing. But this was an asynchronous project. So my students are not face-to-face with Ahmed. There's no live interaction happening. However, they're engaging in the community because they had to address a specific introduction to Ahmed based on what they saw him say that I can go to the market now and say, Ahmed, this is my student, and she's learning Darija and Fusha in Chicago, and she cares about your business here. So that was the impetus for this project. Oops. The bigger one that we're about to move into grew out of a pen palship that we had with high school students in Tangier. So in previous years, they would write letters like this, nos, Arabic and English. And it was a little bit formal, and they maybe didn't get to know each other as well as I would have liked. But because I'm here and I was able to visit their class and ask the Moroccan students what they hope to share with mine, and about their culture, and specifically a food unit. So they provided that they would like to share specific special Ramadan dishes, because Ramadan's coming up, and they offered to record videos of their families cooking these dishes. So here is where really I feel like I'm a facilitator. It was student driven. We asked the students what they wanted to share, what form they wanted it to take, what they wanted the end goal to be, and what we could do to support them. And then I'm working with their teacher, we decided that the goal would be for them to subtitle these videos. So here, I love that the first presentation tonight was about the benefits of collaborative work, because that was the goal. If these students have a shared goal and they're creating a product together, and I can't provide results on this yet, ideally, the belief is that the outcome the cultural connection in any case, will be much stronger. And to pull a little bit of Montessori jargon, it's also rooted in real work. They're not producing something for a grade, they're producing something that's going to be on YouTube, and ideally they can give to their aunt in Nebraska and she learns what harira is. So the outcomes are real. And this is my first time facilitating an exchange like this. So I really welcome, after this talk, any feedback or any experience other folks have in this regard, in terms of making an equitable and mutually beneficial exchange, and as much contact between the students as possible. We're hoping for some live video exchanges, and if nothing else, definitely email, maybe even some WhatsApp. So to tie it all together, there certainly is going to continue to be a demand for Darija in the United States if students continue to travel to Morocco and we want them to engage with the culture. However, given the resources online, given our new Zoom skills and whatnot, I believe that teachers can really shift into a facilitator role. So regardless of your background in Arabic, you can give your students exposure to this dialect if they will eventually make their way to Morocco. And ultimately, it's not even about Darija as much as it is about the fact that every dialect can now be included in a curriculum that is Fusha focused, that is Amiya focused, that is both. And thank you all for your time, and I really look forward to hearing feedback on this talk.